What have I got myself into?
I'm fucking shitting myself.
Alright, welcome back to the channel, people. It is war number 8 of the season. We're up against CADBL. First up, I've got Cat Marvel movie here. As you can see, she's got buff and balance. She's got buff and balance power drain, that is. So yeah, whenever she gets a buff, I get a little power drain on myself until I throw a special to remove it. She's also got blood in the water, so for every debuff on me, she gets a fat fury buff. And there's a heal block passive. There might have been one other thing as well, but this is a nothing fight really. For Doom, it is, yeah, like I say, it's just, there is no real danger at all in this fight, as is often the case for Doom against CMM. But yeah, I didn't quite get this placement when they had the node just before this available, which has, what's it called, return policy. I feel like there would have been more that could have potentially gone wrong there with accidentally shooting a red or something like that. It's just, yeah. But either way, yeah, Doom's going to crush a fight like that. So, nice, easy start to the war. Next up, I have got a yellowjacket on node 25, so he's got Footloose. Every time he throws a special, he'll get an evade and unstoppable charge, which is why we want Shang Chi for the slow. He's also got kinetic transference, so you can get those specials easy. He's got force of will, so ability accuracy reduction won't work. But here you're going to see me stick to a very simple plan when it comes to wushu management with Shang-Chi. Like, sometimes you might have a lot more to think about, but here it is just stun, slow, heavy reset. Keep that order up, and the best thing about the tactic I've gone with here is I don't need to worry about high ground because I'm not planning to block at all. Of course, that's easier said than done. It's, you know, the special ones, if you just slightly late and get caught by it, or you eat it on the block, as this high ground stacks up, that's going to hurt. So I have to execute it perfectly. Let's see how I do. So the aim here as well is actually I'm trying to do the stun wushus through his block, because then this will give him less power than if I were actually hitting into him. And then with the stun wushu being the first one that I choose in that cycle, it gets a long duration, and then I follow it up with a slow, do my heavy. You know, the stun from the stun wushu is long enough because I've done it first. I can do the medium to get a slow up, and then heavy to reset, and then, you know, medium, light, medium again for the stun wushu into his block, as you see here. Then we go medium to put the slow on him, heavy reset. Simple as that. You can see as well already my special 2 did a huge chunk of damage, and yeah, we're gonna close this one out with a full yellow bar. At that point I was just frustrated he didn't quite die, but I was like, you know what, the special 2 into his block is gonna be enough. And it was. It would have been embarrassing if it wasn't. But no, full yellow bar, feeling very, very good about that one. So yeah, next up I have a Warlock. I have a Havok on path 4B, and I'm taking him with a Warlock. So on this node, every time he throws a special, I'm going to get a heal block and an armor break debuff on myself. And every time I reach 3 debuffs, he goes unblockable. So the aim here is just try to, what I'm planning to do is get my infection on him, but also block a lot. Because as you see there, every time he hits his energy attacks into my block, he's getting power drained, and that helps bring his plasma build up down to 0, resets it. And the aim of this fight is to block a lot, reparry a lot, because when you're going with Warlock, that is because you do not want him to put a plasma on you. Because if he does put a plasma on you, that's his access to his 3rd debuff. Ideally, you want to try and stop him throwing a special altogether if you can. That's great, turtle up a lot, as I'm doing really well at the moment. But if he throws it, it's not the end of the world. It's 2 debuffs, and they'll eventually run out, and they can't stack. So as you see here, he gets it, but as you'll notice, I let him hit me with a heavy. Not intentionally, of course, but I hit a heavy, and now I have 3 debuffs on me. He's unblockable. And this is where the fight starts to go south. Now, I throw my special 3 just to give myself some breathing space, and then the power drain's on him as well, so that's helping control his plasma a bit. But you'll also see it's not done enough to help control it. It's kept his power down at least though, so I don't have to worry about blocking. But there you go, the debuffs come off me, and he just doesn't bait into that hitting into my block that I blocked, hoping he'd come in and hit me. He didn't, and his plasma build up ticked over 10. and he got 1 plasma on me. Now you're thinking it's only 1 debuff, but of course, like I said, if he throws a special now, he's going to have access to 3. So at the moment, I know I've just got to really turtle up and stop him throwing specials, but there he does. Now I've got 3 debuffs on me and he's unblockable. And here it's just, I think, frustration at this point sets in, and I allow myself to get sloppy, which I shouldn't have, because, you know, I've rushed in there and got retaliated by him on an intercept. Now you'll see as well, big problem starting because my armor is broken. I have nothing to stop me eating the detonation from the plasma. Okay, my armor comes back there. He hits me. He's unblockable still, and I just get clipped. And a fight I've probably soloed 1,000 times before. Slight exaggeration there, but I solo this with ease. I've let get out of control, you know. I didn't throw any heavies. I had my invuln on. I baited his heavies and let him hit my block with power drains. I went for the special 3. Did everything correct in the, you know, the usual areas that would trip you up, but I let the fight slip away from me early on, and yeah, while almost recovering it, there was that one turning point where he just didn't quite hit into my block as well, and he got the plasma on me, and that, you know, kind of ticked it over. Still, it's a fight that I could have managed better, obviously, with my intercepts not being good enough, but it happens. We clean it up here, and yeah, unfortunately 1 death. Right, so now while this fight's closing out, I have a chance to speak about the next 2 coming up. So the next node is a clairvoyant, also on 4B with the same steady build up unblockable theme, and then America Chavez on node 39, where she has ebb and flow intercept, crumbling armor, and her mighty charge. So those are 2 fights that are going to be very, very tricky, especially because this Claire I've been assigned Shang Chi. And at first we thought, you know, so Shang Chi gets access to some buffs fire when you dex, which is from the mastery, but also when you use a heavy to reset your wushus, you gain a precision buff for every chi charge that you have, up to a maximum of 4. So the thinking was, once we get rid of her initial 3 clairvoyance charges, she'll consume them to nullify some of my buffs, then we should be good going for the rest of the fight as long as we can keep the cleanses up. However, in dueling, I soon realised that just because she's not nullifying the buffs, I mean, the buffs still get placed in, like, you know, I get 4 of these buffs, plus potentially a dex buff. And they only last 15 seconds and then they expire, and suddenly she's going to get a huge burst of power through MD. So duels were going awful. Honestly, I think I did about 20 like practice fights and not one of them went well. And I've gone into this off the back of that and dying into a havok. Now, as you can see, I cleansed the initial heal block, then I got my cleanse charges up again. Here I punish her special 1, which is very dangerous because she could parry you. However, the rest of the times I punish her special 1 are now going to be safe because I've got the unblockable passive. Now that's something I didn't have in my practice fights. And as you can see, I actually threw a skill power back boost, which I wouldn't usually do for Shang Chi because I don't want to get the power back, because I'd rather build up his chi charges before using another special 2, and obviously using the special 2 the first time consumes them. But in that case I did, because I was like, right, maybe I'll have to cycle a few special 2s as a means of resetting my charges rather than using the heavy too often, because the heavy gives me the buffs but the special 2 won't. But as you can see there, it just, like, the first special 2 itself butchered her, and she was pretty much finished after that, so it went very, very well. Compared to some really awful duels, but of course that's the problem with duels in practice, you can't always completely replicate it. And I mean, it was still good practice because, you know, my test scenario, my practices were actually harder cases than the actual fight, where I had an unblockable passive and I had my skill boost on to do extra damage from my special. So yeah, it was very satisfying to pull that one off after, like I say, an awful havok fight and awful duels. But yeah, next up we have America Chavez. So as I mentioned, this fight has got crumbling armor, mighty charge, and ebb and flow intercept. Now Dr. Doom is immune to armor break, so we can ignore crumbling armor. We have a House of X pre-fight, which means we get passive stuns and therefore can ignore mighty charge. And then ebb and flow intercept, well, we can also ignore that too, because Doom has enough damage that even if we don't get the intercept, as long as we can cycle through and get his Furies, we can do enough damage. But, you know, obviously we still ideally want to get the intercept at some point. Just the aim is to not force it, and rather than just let it come naturally, you know, get that intercept naturally in the fight for the Fury, and to remove the protection and get the fight done quicker. Now, so you're thinking, I've got a solution that ignores all of the nodes. Well, America Chavez doesn't care, because she's a very, very annoying defender in her own right. Like, the node aside, she's very, very annoying. So right off the bat there, we've caught a heavy to the face and lost our entire invulnerability boost. So that's great, but you know, we're like, fine, that's fine. So as you can see there, we punish her first hit of her heavy to put her in the utopian parallel dimension. And all that will do is reduce the potency of buffs, so that doesn't matter too much, other than the fact that it would reduce the potency of my Furies, probably. I can't remember by how much. But again, you know, you'd much rather that than the, what is it called? We'll find out in a moment. The negative zone dimension, which makes her special 2 unblockable. So now she's thrown a heavy twice, and she's got 2 stacks of the negative zone dimension, and that means her special 2, which she's got now, is unblockable. So what I do there is I bait a heavy and punish the first hit to ensure that I then trigger her utopian parallel dimension again, and the special 2 is no longer unblockable, because it's only unblockable if the last dimension she triggered was the negative zone one. So, you know, big shout out to Campo. This is something he pointed out in one of his most recent videos, and yeah, it's a really handy tip to know with her, because it means that, you know, if you can compose yourself, turtle up and bait out the heavy like that, and you know, punish like this per utopian parallel as the last activated dimension, then you know, you avoid that scare of an unblockable special 2 potentially hitting you in the face. So after some very shaky moments in this fight, you can see I've kind of you know, gathered myself and built some momentum here. Now we go into a Doom cycle. So yeah, I mean, a fight that was going incredibly south, incredibly quickly, we've turned it right back around, and I think this is going to go up there as probably one of my biggest clutch fights from turning it around. And you think, for someone, look, it's still 78% health, it's not really like clutching it with 1%, but clutching it in terms of that smart tactic in between to regain control from a fight that was like running away from me. And now I believe we're throwing our second special 3. I will see in a minute when the animation finishes. I was busy talking, not looking, so can't quite remember. Yeah, so I've got my second Fury now. At this point I'm like, right, if I can get an intercept in somewhere, that would be great, and get the special 2 off with all that bit extra damage. So here I was hoping she'd run at me, and then the special 2 with intercept, but it didn't quite. So I'm like, okay, that's fine, it's still going to do good damage. I still think we'll be able to do this one without timing out. And then here, you know, I just get an opportunity to intercept. Just really nice intercept there, and then I'm like, right, I'm at 2 bars, she's low on health, throw it. And she did. Over a minute and a half to spare, not bad. So there was no real risk of timing out, but look at that. Over 140 hits, 11 hits taken. I screenshotted it, sent it to my battle group just to give them a little sneak peek of what's coming in my war video. But as you can see, good job there. We had 3 deaths to their 5 in our battle group matchup. However, of course, you know, 3 is still something we would like to improve, but decent job overall. And yeah, at this point, we are on our final fight of the war, knowing 1 death would level things up. I think we were ahead on fight time there, so yeah, 1 death we actually could have had and 1 on fight time, but yeah. As you can see, Meta was in there as well, waiting just like I was. I think Slimon's going to pop up in a moment. And I think someone else, yeah, so here I'm joking about this being yet another clutch win for SSx, man. We've had quite a few, yeah, it was Rob who's in there as well, so we've had quite a few wars go right down to the wire, and I mean, they're really entertaining to look back on, but they are so stressful at the time. As you can see, they're winning it by 1. Yeah, we were well ahead on fight time, so we could have actually afforded 1 more death. I won't say that too loud because I don't want that to get into my mind and make me think I can afford it. Knowing me, I'd somehow find a way to go back into the war that's already finished and die a couple times. Now I'm scared. Let me go check on some boosts. Anyway, it was a good war. We got the win. We're now 5-3 for the season. And yeah, in a really, really good position to push for Masters with 3 wars left. Yeah, so into the final week of the season. This was a stressful war for me. Like I said earlier, I did like 20 practice fights for that Claire alone. Then I did, a fair amount for Chavez. Even did 1 or 2 for Warlock, even though it didn't look like it in the fight. Sorry, for Havok with Warlock. Don't know, I've made that mistake twice in the same video. To practice yellowjacket as well. Like, yeah, it takes its toll, definitely, the amount of time on it. But yeah, it does feel that bit rewarded when you pull a win out the bag. But yeah, that will be that for this war. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.